Hello and welcome to Is Climate Change Your Concern? A podcast where we discuss approaches to climate action and explore practical actions that benefit both our well-being and the health of our planet. I'm your host Anirudh Nanda, and join me each week as we embark on this journey to turn concern into action. In the fight against climate change, we often focus on grand international agreements and sweeping national policies. But what about the action happening closer to home? The decisions made in our states, cities, and even villages can have a profound impact on our planet's future. Today, we are shining a spotlight on subnational climate action. We'll delve into the critical role that states and local governments play in driving change, from implementing innovative policies to mobilizing communities. We'll also confront the challenges they face, from resource constraints to coordination hurdles. Joining us to navigate this complex landscape is Rana Pujari, a leading expert in subnational climate initiatives. Rana brings years of experience working with governments in India and around the world. Today, he'll share his insights into the gaps that need to be addressed, the inspiring success stories we can learn from, and the power of collaboration in achieving our climate goals. Thank you so much, Rana, for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Anirudh. And first of all, want to congratulate you on this very interesting effort that you have started. And thank you for having me here. Pleasure.
Thank you so much. Rana, can we begin with understanding an overview of how subnational governments participate in and influence both national and global climate discussions?
Yes, for sure. I think so. I have spent over the last 5 years, I have spent most of my time in looking at the subnational climate action space, particularly with respect to India. Plus, I have also been part of a few global projects also, where it gave me an opportunity to also look at the global subnational climate action, climate ambition, and global subnational climate discourse that is happening as part of my last assignment with Climate Group. Subnational, I think, role of states has always been at the heart of achieving our climate goals and climate ambition. Why I'm saying this? Because states are closer to the climate impacts that are happening at the local level. States are best placed, and hence, therefore, states are best placed to drive actions due to their proximity of the climate impact and also their proximity to the local communities who are being impacted by climate change. Definitely, climate change is impacting everyone, every kind of infrastructure, definitely not only states, but I mean, at all levels. But states, from a policy making point of view, I think states have always been at the forefront, and their role will always remain pivotal in terms of both designing practical, pragmatic, and action oriented policies, but also implementing them at the local level. By local, I mean at the subnational level, which includes state, cities. Even there are several states which are coming up with their own very local climate action plans. For example, panchayat climate action plans in India. So they are participating. Their participation has always been very important. And currently, looking at the scenario, looking at the urgency of the situation, looking at the role of collaboration these days, also, I think states will have to play a very important and more proactive role in terms of engaging with governance at all levels, engaging with partners organizations, as well as, yeah, proactively implementing their climate action plans and policies on the ground. So overall, their role have always been very important, but going forward, it becomes more important because we need more tailored solutions these days because impact of climate change is happening at different levels and in different kind of, their impact is very different for different geographies, different regions, and also it has become very uncertain. So local agencies, local administration, state level, city level people are best placed to understand those impacts, understand those signals, and then design policies which are more enabling, which will help the cause better.
In this situation, when we realize that how states are strategically placed to take imperative steps to prevent climate change, what are the key challenges or gaps you see that are stopping these subnational governments for fully realizing their climate ambitions?
Yes, so I mean, definitely there are several gaps, and there are several challenges the states grapple with. My experience has been because I have worked so closely with different states in India and also some of the global states. Resource constraint continues to remain a big challenge for states in terms of both human resource as well as finance. There might be few states who are really very well resourced. There are good states, actually, there not might be. There are states which are well resourced, which have a very strong institutional mechanism in place, have the right kind of departments, right kind of infrastructure and human resource. But there are other set of states, and they are more in number, who lack human resource, who lack the technical capabilities, who lack technical people in the department to help them both design and implement their climate action plans, because of the dynamic nature of climate change, right? I mean, there needs to be people who understand what's happening globally. There needs to be, I mean, there's a need of technical resource who understand what's happening locally. So I mean, there's a need for looking at climate change like with a very wider view, wider lens, rather than looking at it from a narrower lens and only looking at what's happening at a state level and doing the routine things. I think for like, so in short, business as usual approach will no longer kind of work. States needs to up their games in terms of both strengthening their human resource capacities as well as finance. Finance continues to be a big challenge, and that's not a problem of the state. States do lack resources in implementing their climate action plan. For example, the state action plan on climate change, which most of the states are now in a place to revise, have almost revised them, and they are now in a position to, I think, going in the next couple of years, they will be in a position to implement them. These action plans has big budgets. I mean, these action plans, these action plans have 8, 9 sectors, and all these 8, 9 sectors have their own activities, actions, and roadmaps in place, which is also, and also they have their own budgets. And these budgets go into like thousands of crores, which goes beyond the state's exchequer, which goes beyond the state's budget available to implement these action plans. Hence, states are always looking at external support, both at national level as well as like external resources, global funding. So finance and human resource is a big constraint. I've also realized that there's a lot that the states can do in terms of strengthening the interdepartmental coordination. Climate doesn't only is not a baby of only the environment department. Definitely, states environment department or the state nodal agencies are the primary custodian of climate, are the primary custodian. For example, the state action plan on climate change, they are the nodal agency, but they do also have to coordinate a lot with other departments. But at times we have seen that there's lack of interdepartmental coordination, lack of support from other department, because climate is still not a priority for the rest of the other departments, which are very relevant when it comes to climate change. For example, agriculture, water, forests, industry, everywhere climate change is relevant and important for all these departments. Yet, like the environment department or the nodal agencies do face a lot of, at times face challenge in better coordination from other departments and support. Third challenge is, I think, a big challenge which will determine the finance flows also, that the states are also looking at, is a lack of bankable projects at state level. States are on one hand, states are saying that they need finance, but on the other hand, we've also realized that there are not enough bankable projects on the shelf, like projects for like at state level, which could be financed by other agencies. So they also, so this is again linked to the human resource capacity gap, Anirudh. I mean, they lack trained people, trained technical resource who will help them develop these bankable projects, develop more TORs or DPRs, etc., detailed project report or terms of reference, etc. So it is all interconnected. So these challenges are very interconnected, and they kind of lead to each other. So bankable projects will only help the state in terms of getting more funding, right? Once you have one set of projects, it will make the state's life easier in securing funding. Once they have projects, they will apply to other areas. They can also apply to other opportunities. They can also reach out to other funding agencies to get funds. There is good work happening. It's not only pessimistic. There's not only pessimism with respect to projects and finance. There are few states who are in a better position, who have strengthened their resource, who have strengthened their capacities to do these things. But there are other bigger number of states who still lack this understanding also. Also, lastly, I would just like to end on the challenge gap by saying that each governance level can do in terms of strengthening the multi-level governance. For example, states, cities are at times not talking to each other. For example, state action plan on climate change, they are being developed by the state environment department or at the departmental level. Nowadays, we are also seeing several bold and ambitious city climate action plans are also coming up, which are being developed by the cities administration. And these are very bold, these are very ambitious documents. These are required these days. I mean, these are like proving to be instrumental in terms of driving climate action at different levels, right? But what I feel is that state action plan or city climate action plan should talk to each other. They should not be siloed documents. They should not be siloed efforts, right? Ultimately, the city action plan should kind of feed into the state action plan, right? So at the national level, then there are NDCs and LTLEDs. So the state action plan should then ultimately complement the NDCs. So I was thinking of a concept around, and NDC is the national determined contributions, right? Why can't state has have their state level determined contributions so that they exactly know how much are they contributing to the NDCs at the national level. So there's also overall there's so in general there is a lack of interdependent like multi-level governance coordination across levels, both national, state, and city level. Well, I think state can play a more proactive role because they are best placed to engage with both city and the national level.
Rana, from what I can interpret, it looks like lack of coordination happens to be a major issue. In this scenario, are there any institutional mechanisms that provide impetus to this coordination, or we lack those institutional mechanisms as of now?
There are institutional mechanisms. There are these mechanisms. For example, states have their own either environment department or they have developed or institutionalized their own nodal agencies. For example, Madhya Pradesh has EPCO, Environmental Planning Coordination Organization. UP has come up with their UP Climate Change Authority. Gujarat has their own climate change department. I think the only state, if I'm not wrong, which has a department named as climate change, like climate change department. Most of the states have environment department or environment, forest, and climate change department. Tamil Nadu has come up with a very innovative idea on developing a special purpose vehicle in the form of a company, Tamil Nadu Green Climate Company. So, I mean, states are definitely taking these steps, are definitely improvising on strengthening the institutional mechanism at state level, which is also helping them also kind of engage at different forms and ways with other agencies, for example, civil society organizations, private actors, industry players, other kind of global agencies. There are institutional mechanisms, but I think they need to be strengthened. I think the important part is there all the states now have best part is all the states have their institutional mechanism, their departments in place. But the challenge is then the next set of challenge is around strengthening these institutions via both human resource capacity and also being more ambitious, being more proactive in terms of engaging with other kind of players which are equally important, like other departments, civil society organizations, global agencies, national government, and also the ambition and objective and whole scope of work of these institutions. Also, maybe there's a need to also revisit that and maybe revise those scope.
Would you want to discuss one such example wherein there is seamless coordination between, so to say, a city climate action plan and which is interacting with NDCs in general, just so that we have an idea that this mechanism is working as such?
If you talk about global, I mean, outside India, there are several examples I can quote, but I think let's limit ourselves to India. If we limit ourselves to India, I think there's good work happening in Maharashtra. I think Mumbai was one of the first cities in India to come up, I think, in the global south, or at least in the global, I think, South Asia, if I'm not wrong, to have their own climate action plan. So Mumbai Climate Action Plan, when all these efforts were being put in place, there was this very strong alignment of Mumbai city with the state department. State departments were also in the process of developing the state action plans. The Mumbai Climate Action Plan was being developed with support from obviously other external agencies, civil society organizations, and other important players. That time, we definitely saw a lot of integrated effort and collaborative effort across governance level at state level. The ambition of the state was also kind of very much out there. Their intent was also very much out there and clear in terms of helping ultimately the national government and achieve their NDCs. So I think this is one of the examples I can definitely quote from my memory. Tamil Nadu is also doing a lot of good work. There's also a lot of integrated effort because of this special purpose vehicle, because of this green climate company, which has been set up, whose one of the objective is also to strengthen this alignment, strengthen this coordination across different actors in this space. UP is also, I think UP is also has a very proactive department. Also, I would like to point out one thing. The importance and role of one thing is climate at state level is individual driven. The person who is leading the department, the head of department, that person's ambition, that person's drive drives a lot of things at state level. For example, the secretary who is heading the environment department, the director level people who are out there, the push and drive and ambition of this individual, and also the awareness of the individual and understanding of this individual of the subject plays a lot of role. I mean, is a big game changer.
In this scenario, as you are suggesting right now, would you suggest that climate leadership at subnational level can help us bridge in some of the multi-level governance gaps that you've just suggested right now?
Yes. I think just in my previous response only, I ended with that point on the importance of the individual, importance of the person who is heading the department. So that's on a bureaucracy level, right? I mean, they're playing their own part. They're playing their very important part in terms of driving climate action, in terms of both designing policies and as well as implementation. But also implementation has the role of other actors also comes into play when it comes to implementation. I mean, it has a factor of finance, it has a factor of budget, it has a factor of like grassroots level organizations. So it is a collaborative effort when it comes to implementation, but at least the designing of policies, the thought process of being out there and being more dynamic, being more proactive in terms of designing policies and also being more proactive in terms of learning from their global and regional players also. I think most of the states which we have seen are very much open to learn from global peers on what's happening in other states. At times, there are not adequate platform for them to learn about their global players. So I think peer-to-peer learning is very much welcome by these departments, and like states are very much open to learn from other peers and also showcase their best practices on different platform. I think that's also very much they are looking forward to. One level above that, I think the political leadership also plays a lot of importance, plays a huge role in terms of driving action, driving the ambition at the highest level, both at state and national level. For example, if there are a group of very ambitious and bold climate, like state environment leaders in India, I mean, they go to a global platform like COP, talk about their ambition in different platform, and it gives a different flavor to the whole climate discourse, right? Definitely, leadership plays a very important role in ensuring the coordination is happening better, ensuring that that level of drive like kind of percolates across governance levels at state level, right? For example, and if an environment minister is very bold, dynamic, and understands the subject and is out there visible and talking in public platforms about their state's ambition, has a very different kind of impact, both at state level and also, I mean, gives a different kind of showcases or the state in a different light comes to this. Definitely, leadership plays a very important, will continue to play a very important role when it comes to climate action at subnational level. But I can elaborate this further, Anirudh. I can quote some examples or maybe platform who are actually are facilitating this showcasing bold leadership at state level.
Yeah, from your experience with Under2 Coalition, wherein you were directly involved with subnational projects and subnational initiatives that were being implemented, it would be great if you could share some of those concrete examples and how things evolved and how subnational leadership came into role.
Yeah, thank you for reminding this. Under2 Coalition, in my last like stint with Climate Group, I was leading the Under2 Coalition regional engagement work. It's a global platform. It's a platform of around 270 subnational players, subnational governments from all over the world. I think coalitions such as Under2, which is the only and largest global coalition of states, they are playing a very important part in bridging these gaps, which we have mentioned, which we have just discuss the challenges around kind of governance, coordination, lack of dedicated platform to showcase actions and leadership. They are playing a very important role in also influencing some national leadership and actions, both within the region and also at a global level, because it's a global platform. There has been significant progress, Anirudh, in the coalition's work over the years since it was launched during the Paris COP in 2015, the COP 21, the landmark Paris COP, and that's when the coalition came up and was launched with an ambition to strengthen subnational climate discourse, create a dedicated platform, a forum for states to come and yeah, showcase their actions, network with each other, learn from each other and help like a platform which is only dedicated to supporting the subnational climate discourse and action at a global level. If we talk about India, there are 8 Indian signatories to the Under 2 Coalition MOU. To sign up, they have not only signed up to an MOU, but actually they have signed up to an ambition which says that as a coalition, Under 2 Coalition wants to become net zero by 2050, but it's not bound to, like, any state is not forced or been asked to kind of commit to any date, but at least at a coalition level, because coalition comprises of different states, like, and they are in a different level of their preparedness, their needs, their requirements, right, resources. So few states will achieve before that or after that, so it's okay. But as a coalition, they are saying that yeah, we want to become net zero by 2050. So at least that gives an ambition, that sets the ambition at the coalition level for to influence and drive action at individual state level. So that setting of ambition was very important, and hence there are different activities that are happening. There are great work that are happening both within the Under 2 Coalition network state, but also beyond the network states. So because these states are again talking about their actions, who are Under 2 Coalition member states are talking about their actions and leadership in a global platform, which is again then influencing their global peers or Indian players to think about these platforms, to think about these ambitious, bold steps that the states are taking beyond their business as usual work, which are very important, equally important. But states now need to think beyond their work, beyond their kind of remit, to be more visible and showcase more leadership at these levels, at these dedicated platforms which are set up only for them to support their actions. So obviously these 8 states are reaping a lot of benefit. Like the Under 2 Coalition, I'm sure there are other platforms also, but Under 2 Coalition is a dedicated platform only for states. There are several city level forums also. Like for example, say C40 runs their own city coalition. There are like several organizations who have coalitions and network for different kind of actors and stakeholders. So this is also a platform where we showcase, like Under 2 Coalition used to showcase, like showcases a lot of leadership voices from states, which is not only going to benefit the state, right, but also ultimately is going to complement the national efforts. So just want to conclude by saying that these platforms are very important, not only for states leadership, but also ultimately is going to help the global climate discourse in some form or the other, because definitely there are several platforms for the national governments, several like national to national or country to country engagement already happens at different forums like these G20s, G7, these COPs, but most of these are at a federal and national level. These kind of platform which goes 1 or 2 levels below at some national level platforms, I think are very important, which I think the state should look at it from an opportunity point of view also.
In this incredible work that Under2 Coalition is doing, would you want to use one example as to how one of the Indian states use this platform to maybe implement a particular project or maybe export their know-how to a particular state which may be abroad and showcase their ability? What I'm trying to do is theorize here and give an example with respect to how this platform is working.
Yes, there are several examples. As part of the coalition, we had facilitated a lot of state to state engagements, both like with Indian and global peers. So they call it secondments. So a lot of secondments we have facilitated, we had facilitated when where one state was a host to other state. And these kind of facilitation and secondments did help one state to learn from other states' best practices or policies. For example, Tripura, there was a secondment which we did between Tripura and Maryland state in the US. So both the states came together and learned from their best practices. Tripura, there's a flagship and initiative known as Bio Villages Tripura, which is now very known, very renowned now. It was also appreciated by the Prime Minister in one of his radio sessions, I think last year. It has been applauded across different kind of stakeholders and players. Maryland wanted to learn from that success story. On the other hand, Tripura wanted to learn from a state which has done good work on climate budgeting. So this kind of very specific exchange of knowledge and information on policy and best practices, the Under2 Coalition keeps on kind of facilitating that. So this is just one example, but these secondments also have happened with different other states also, like Jammu and Kashmir had a secondment with California. We also had facilitated a secondment between West Bengal and Baden-Württemberg state of Germany. So these secondments play a very, and secondment is a very fundamental and core activity and core offering of the Under2 Coalition to its member states. So, and which the states benefit a lot from. So that's one, but there are other also things that has happened. I mean, recently Punjab became I think the only state in from India to announce their net zero ambition and net zero ambition by 2050. And they have categorically said that we like in the document net zero by 2050 in line with Under2 Coalition's ambition. So one of the things that the Under2 Coalition has very proudly influenced was this, and we want more states to kind of join this bandwagon. So I think this, yeah, I mean, influencing the net zero discourse at state level is one of the fundamental objective of the coalition. So that's one more example. Maharashtra was doing great work, is still doing great work as part of the coalition. They also got an award in COP20. I think there was in one of the COPs, I think COP26 in Glasgow, where we had institutionalized one of its kind award for our Under2 Coalition members for the first time, and Maharashtra received one of those awards. I think these kind of there are several other good examples that I can quote, but due to paucity of time, I'll just limit to these examples and yeah, success stories from the coalition.
Thank you so much for outlaying the state of affairs for how subnational governments are actively engaging with Under2 Coalition and how these efforts are reaping results. Before we move to my call to action question, would you have any of the last thoughts which you might want to share?
No, Anirudh, I don't have any specific thoughts, but broadly, I wanted to say is that there are good things happening. There is good work happening at different levels. Good things happening beyond government also. The good things happening beyond governments, within the civil society organizations, within other private players, corporates, businesses, think tanks, financial institutions, everyone, is playing their own important part in this whole journey. Because ultimately we are trying to solve we're trying to address the same challenge, right? Which is climate change and its impacts. And it is impacting now everyone, every day. So I think that seriousness is definitely out there. I mean, not everything is negative and pessimistic, even though, there are several reports that are coming out, alarming us, alarming this whole fraternity, alarming this whole ecosystem, alarming every individual about the seriousness of the situation, about the urgency in the way we need to act. But I think good things are happening, good actions are happening. But yeah, we'll also have to recognize the challenges, the limitations under which we all are working. And a few of those I did mention during this discussion, but there are several other kind of challenges also that is beyond this conversation also, which then comes down to like people, communities, equity, right? No one is left behind. I think climate change is just beyond policies, programs, initiatives, events, workshops, discussion. Definitely, these are important things, but I think it cuts across other levels, cuts across, and it's very much deep rooted, and we all need to work together. Also just wanted to highlight the importance of collaboration in this whole journey. This is an era of collaboration and partnerships. We can't afford to work in silos. Also, finally, there's a human touch to it. Climate change is impacting lives. Climate change is impacting trees, is impacting animals, is impacting humans. So climate change is impacting lives, obviously resources as well, infrastructure as well, but obviously who will live if those infrastructure are not there, right? So we are responsible to save that, and there is a big element of humanity and human touch to it, and it's not only very mechanical. So I'd like to, yeah, end on that note.
I know there are a lot of recommendations that can be put in place, But if you would want to summarize the entire conversation with a call to action to different stakeholders, that would be great, including national government, subnational leaders, civil society, and maybe even private sector.
As I was mentioning earlier, Anirudh, I think national, state, and city levels and administration are already walking the talk and showcasing leading examples via policies, missions, programs. And I think the world can emulate a lot from Indians. I think from both from the best practices at the national level and also the subnational and city level. And even these Panchayat Climate Action Plan, and there are such, I mean, great ideas that are coming up, best practices and examples that are coming out from the local levels. I mean, I'll just like to suggest and hope, actually. I mean, I'm no one to suggest, but with a hope, I like to end that these good things should continue. Good things should only continue, and good things should also, I mean, we should only build onto the good things and best practices and good things that has happened in the past, while always continue to improvise on the work that is already happening. Because as I was mentioning, climate change is so dynamic. Everything is changing so quickly these days. I mean, is rapid rainfall happening, flooding happening. Floods used to happen earlier also, but it has become so uncertain and it has become so intense. I mean, we all need to gear up, and we all need to be very proactive and dynamic in our thinking as well as in our work, which I mean, the work includes the work of civil society organizations, the policy making process, the implementation process, overall thought process on climate. I think there's some work that still needs to be there done in terms of being more fit for purpose, I guess.
Thank you so much for that, Rana. But I'm so sorry. There's a very incisive question that we have received on LinkedIn from Vishal. If you may allow, may I read that?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Rana. With the increasing focus on subnational climate action, how can we ensure that local communities are meaningfully engaged in the decision making processes and that their voices are heard in shaping climate policies that directly impact them?
Yeah, very interesting and important question, Anirudh. Communities, I mean, the role of communities will continue to play very important, will have a lot of importance in the policy making process, because ultimately they are being hit by climate change directly. And like the consultation, definitely the state action plans. Now, if I come to policy making process and all, definitely the state action plans or city climate action plans or these panchayat climate action plans, they definitely have a very strong mechanism of consultation. They do get consulted, and there's a very strong like stakeholder consultation mechanism in place while designing any policies, both be it at national level, state level, city level, or more local level or district level. So that thing is already happening, but I think that can be tightened a bit further. Yeah, I mean, there are different, because there are different kind of stakeholders, different kind of communities, and they have a different link to nature and environment. We need to be more pragmatic and practical and more holistic in our thought process when we do these consultations, and just to ensure that their concerns and that their thinking is embedded in whatever we are coming up with. Ultimately is going to help them and benefit them and not devoid them of any opportunities.
Thank you so much for answering that. And I think there are lots of positives that we can take from this conversation, including all the initiatives that are being undertaken. And I'm very grateful that you've highlighted them and told them the impact that they're having. And thank you so much for all these insights. I'm very grateful for your time, Rana, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Anirudh. It was such a pleasure talking to you, Anirudh. And yeah, I mean, this was a very different kind of podcast. I had a lot of flexibility in terms of thinking and sharing my thoughts and views. And it was very free flowing. So thanks a lot, Anirudh, for kind of curating this kind of very open two-way conversation. I look forward to engaging with you in future, and all the best for this endeavor of yours. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me in this episode of Is Climate Change Your Concern? This would not have been possible without the invaluable support of the Future Founders core team, and I'm grateful for that. In our conversation with Rana, we gained invaluable insights into the vital role subnational governments play in tackling climate change. Initiatives like the Under2 Coalition are instrumental in supporting these efforts. As climate change impacts intensify, challenges such as limited human and fiscal resources, along with the need for improved multi-level governance and interdepartmental coordination persist. However, Rana highlighted the crucial role of subnational leadership in driving climate action, offering hope for overcoming these hurdles. He commended the ambitious approaches of governments like Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, and Punjab and encouraged building upon these success stories. As someone passionate about climate action, it's encouraging to witness the optimism of professionals working on such critical initiatives that will shape our future. Do let me know what you think about this episode, and if you enjoyed this, please subscribe and share it with your friends. See you next week.